Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on June 15th, 2022 at approximately 6:23 a.m. PST. I've been looking at it a lot. And here's the thing. Okay, people keep talking about requiring, about desiring world unity. And yet, these same people are finding all sorts of new and exciting ways. I just got thinking about this morning. People are thinking of new and exciting ways to blame everybody else. Most of the time, they seem to point to the so-called elites, which, by the way, are not elite. They simply have more toys than you've got, or for that matter, than I've got. But people look at the so-called elites, the government, the religious leaders, and they go, it's all your fault. Well, here's a news flash for you. Let's give you just a small tally from the way that I see it. Okay, there is no question that government stepped in and made women seem like that government, actually, in all fairness, it was religious leaders that started it. Okay, and the government's just carried it on. That women were of a lesser value than men. And yet, without women, men wouldn't exist. This is just the blunt reality. Of course, without men, women wouldn't exist either. So you are really in this together. Now, in the religious community and the government did actually come up with that idea. Okay, but they did not come up with the idea. They came up with the fact that women are of less value. Okay, they are the ones that seem to have come up with. Now, whether it was the government or the people in the government backed it up, I'm not 100% certain. But it did become a factor that because women were women, they were getting paid less. Okay, and this is something that has been perpetuated for generations. Okay, this is something you can absolutely look to the corporations, to the so-called elites, to the government, and say that's their doing. Okay, however, okay, they are to blame for that, or to, they sometimes you call it blame, sometimes you give it credit. Okay, but this idea that you've got to be politically correct, that comes from the people. The government didn't say you've got to be nice the way you put things. They said, let's not tell you what's going on and let you figure it out and you can worry about it yourself. It was the general population that decided that they were going to complain a lot about whether or not you were being politically correct. Okay, it was the general population that came up with the idea of, let's find extra loopholes. Let's whine and complain because my child isn't being disciplined. The government didn't say the kids aren't being disciplined properly. The people did. And the people pushed until the government finally said, okay, and this is, like I said, my perspective. But, people complained that they were, and I look at it this way. In school, I stayed in school a lot of the time because, well, from my standpoint, I didn't like the kids to start with. So when they were all skipping, I stayed in school. It wasn't because I agreed with the educational system. It was because I didn't agree with the kids. And that was the reality behind it for me. Okay. Now, the government did not come up with this absolutely bizarre idea that we should have 52 different genders or however many it's up to. The government came up with, the scientists came up with, hey, you're human. There are two genders, male and female. Should you be treated equally, male and female? Absolutely. But this absolute bizarre idea of let's make it a national debate over whether I'm allowed to sleep with somebody of my own gender. Okay, now the Bible itself, the Christian society, and probably the other religions, I don't know for certain on that one, but the religious communities came up with the idea that you're not allowed to sleep with everybody else. Okay, now yes, I won't argue it says it in the Bible. It also says thou shalt not kill in the Bible. But here's the kicker on that one. If you're not allowed to kill, The original fifth commandment, from my understanding, was thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not. In other words, don't kill somebody because you don't like them. Don't kill somebody because they upset you. Okay, don't kill somebody because they're standing on the wrong side of the street or the wrong skin color. Okay, thou shalt not murder means you don't kill them because you don't agree with them. Okay, but the church changed that to thou shalt not kill instead of thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not kill. Get this, if you follow that, you're no longer hunting, you're no longer farming, because you can't kill the plants either. Okay, and yeah, I know, this is where you look at it and go, well, you're taking it out of context. Actually, the problem is I'm putting it in context. The people, like, people are looking at the abortion thing and saying, we need, women shouldn't have an abortion. It's absolutely illegal. While they're saying we're running out of room, running out of housing, running out of supplies, running out of food. Let's ensure that there are more kids. There's a brilliant idea. But what happens, what people are responsible for, and do understand, when I talk about, like, I was told one day, I was actually told one day by one person in particular that I was the only true racist they'd ever met. Because most of you out there will go, you're a different color, you're a different religion, you're a different sexual orientation, you're a different hair color. Okay, that makes you a lesser person. Okay, well, that's a brilliant idea. In my case, what they told me was, you look at people and you go, you're all human and therefore you all have major problems. Am I perfect? Absolutely not, because I'll tell you, if I was perfect, I would not be on this planet right now. I'd step back and let the whole thing go, but hey, I'm here, so I'll do what I can. And if that means flicking on the lights and saying, hey, have you looked at this side of it? We're taught that all the material stuff in the world is extremely important. And we're taught if you've got more stuff, that makes you a better person. Okay, we go back to slavery. Now, everybody complains about slavery. And there's this great big to do about the blacks being brought over to the North Americans, over to North America on slave trades. They were. What people ignore is the blacks were enslaving other people and selling them to the whites. Now, you want slavery, you get up in the morning, you have to go to work in order to afford, and I like the way that I saw it put the other day. You're getting up to go to a job, most of you are getting up to go to a job you don't like, to afford to pay for a vehicle you don't require, to buy stuff that you don't even desire, that the TV, the media is saying, buy this stuff. And it's being pounded into you day in and day out. So you're going to buy stuff you don't really desire. Oh, we got a sale. I saw a sale one day. It was priceless. Right. Whoever put the sale up had forgotten to remove the original item, the original price. So what I saw in a grocery store was mushroom soup on sale, $1.20. Which, sounds great until you realize that the original price was $99. Now, this is where people don't think. I spotted the sign and went and talked to one of the clerks, and I said, "Can you explain this to me?" Well, they went and got the manager, the department manager, and the guy looks at me and goes, "Well," he says, "it's legal. It is for, we are selling it. It is listed at $1.20. He says the silly part is people buy it more often, buy more of this stuff when it's on sale for more than the original. Okay, but we are taught that you've got to buy this stuff. And, we talk about people, everybody's talking about, we desire world unity. Well, you cannot have world unity when you take a look at this. Okay, the government didn't do this one. Neither did the religious leaders. The general population pulled this one off. Christianity is a massive world. It's a massive global organization. Okay. But if it is so unified, why do you have 45,000 different denominations? Now, it's the different people that have done that, not the church itself. It's individuals that have done that and said, I don't agree with the way it's put out. I don't agree with this one little aspect. So we're going to change this one little aspect and we're going to call it a different religion. You've separated the world. Okay, you've separated that religion. Okay, every religion has done the same thing, just not to the same extent. Okay, there was already a problem with gender equality. Okay, people already had a problem with male and female gender equality. And now some genius out there has come up with the idea of let's make a whole bunch of different belief structures and call those new genders. Now, right now, it's just plain silly. Pretty soon, it's going to get stupid. And the reason I say that is you've opened the door. Okay, people are going, well, I identify as a male, therefore I should be male. Well, I got news for you. Kids do not identify as male or female. They really don't until they get older. So they're not going to identify as male or female. The parent that is deciding that is male or female, take a look at biology. And if anybody can come up with an idea with proof that there is a physiological difference, and let's not split this into, well, it's not about the physiological. Well, actually, male and female is. Who you sleep with or what you behave like is not. Your behavior is your own choice. Now, I've been sitting back and I am doing my best to stay focused on just one step at a time. How do you get your life turned around? Well, picture this. You're living in a cesspool. You're striving to clean out your little pond that's being overflowed into by everything around you. That's a great idea and it works. But you got to realize that in order to empty a cesspool, you got to stop pouring the garbage into it. Okay, it's just that simple. If your boat is leaking, you've got to patch the hole before you're going to stop the water from coming in. This is just plain, from my standpoint, common sense. From your standpoint, I don't know, maybe it's a foreign concept. If you desire to, when we're talking about war, people go, oh, we're going to go to war over that. Well, there's a brilliant idea. Only the problem is the people that are declaring war are standing on the sidelines, except for one case in particular that I know of. Now, I don't watch the news, okay? So I got told by one person, if you're isolating yourself from people and you're not watching the news, that's not called living. Well, I will tell you, although that's one perspective of it, I look at it this way. Walking around in a cesspool with people dumping garbage on you that is blatantly false. Okay. And I mean blatantly, as in I've seen accidents where what was reported on the news, the only thing that got right was the location. Other than that, it was all speculation and made up, quite frankly. Okay. But humans keep finding new ways to separate themselves. Now, I build myself as a spiritual guide for one reason. The tools that I offer people to work with are the tools I personally use. The philosophies of life I talk about are the ones I personally live by. Okay. Now, I'm not perfect. Like I said, if I were perfect, I wouldn't be here. Have I gone through a fair chunk? Well, it stands to reason. I'm 59 years old. I've gone through a fair chunk. However, I am still learning. I am still figuring out and talking to other people, some older than me, some younger than me, that come up with different ways of looking at things. Okay, they go, have you looked at this in this angle? Because I've still got my hang-ups. One of the biggest ones, and I was told really blatantly, obviously, that, the reality is, according to the psychiatrist, the biggest problem I have is I've got virtually zero tolerance for stupidity. Okay, nobody has bothered explaining to me the rational difference between why one person doing one job should be paid more than another person doing the exact same job. Okay, unless when they've got the same level of experience. Okay, there's people quote the Bible about all sorts of things. Okay, they quote the laws about all sorts of things. Only when I was watching a not documentary, but just a little news blurb one day years ago. We're apparently not allowed to call people retarded. Yet when you look at the definition of the word retarded, if somebody is thinking slower, that's what they are. This does not mean they are a lesser person. Okay, I've got to give a real hats off to the people that handle the mentally challenged adults that are still, and I mean the ones that are literally not functionally capable of taking care of themselves. There are many of you out there that get completely overlooked. You're putting your days in taking care of these people and giving them some semblance of life. Okay, now more power to you. Like I said, real hats off to you. But when you're dealing with somebody that are on equal footing, nobody's ever given me a rational reason why somebody should get paid less. Okay, nobody has given me a rational reason why. Many of these silly things come up. Like, what kind of genius does it take to design a car? And I saw this, I caught wind of this while I was showing it on the news the other day. Somebody was pulled on because of these new cars that are coming out that are capable. This person got pulled over because she was sleeping while her car was driving. Now, this is just stupid. Okay, there are way too many problems. I mean, if you think about it, how many times has your computer glitched? What happens if that car that person is driving in falls and she didn't fall asleep, she went to sleep. Okay. Now, I know some people will pass out because they're either too tired, they've been pushing too long, or God forbid, sometimes what ends up happening is somebody has a heart attack and they pass out. Okay, accidents like that, they're tragic, but they're in a sense acceptable. In other words, it's not somebody's fault. But when you design a car designed specifically to let people sleep while they're driving, this is not safe. This isn't even intelligent in my eyes. But we find new and exciting ways to differentiate people. Okay, for instance, now myself, I've been working in the consulting field since I was 10, professionally since I was 23. I'm 59 now. Okay, now with that in mind, I've dealt with just about everything. I've dealt with child psychology things. I am not trained as a psychologist, but the fact that I deal with child psychology, adult psychology, animal psychology, business issues, UFOs, the metaphysical world. I'd call it near death, except I went way the other side. Okay, past life, you name it. Now, many of you will go, well, God created everything, but everything evil is created by Satan. Bad news. If God created everything, that's where it stops. God created everything. Okay, including good, evil, neutral, and Satan. Okay, and blaming somebody else is not, blaming somebody else for something isn't going to work well. The other problem we have here is let's find a way to separate the people. Okay, when you put a law in place that says at this age you're allowed to do this, but if you're this gender, no, not able. Okay, if you're calling this color, doesn't work. You're no longer able. Okay, but people are finding all sorts of ways. At school, you have kids going, "Oh, you're not wearing the newest type of shoe, therefore you're less of a person." That is not something kids are born with. That is something that parents, not the government, not the religious community, okay, but parents themselves, individuals, are creating these separations. Okay, I told my own kids. I don't, I'm not one for tattoos. I love the artwork that comes out of it and the creativity that it goes behind it. I personally told them I will not back you up on a tattoo or on a piercing until you're until you're 18. When you're 18, okay, you desire to go and get a tattoo, you desire to go and get a piercing, that's your call. Okay, I'll still caution you on what I know of as far as the complications go, but it's your call. Now, from my standpoint, that's because I put this boundary and I said, there's the boundary I have for me. This is what I'll back up. And my wife at the time and I both agreed that's a good point. But when you start teaching your kids that because you have a different style of jacket, or you've got a new car, you've got the newest car available, this makes you a better person. They're scum because they don't have as much money. Go out and talk to the people on the street. And I'm not talking about the ones that are sitting there drunk out of their minds or hired than kite. I'm talking about the ones that are just sitting there being people. Okay, they may be smoking. Smoking used to be considered the worst thing in the world. Of course, it also used to be considered decent for your health as far as nerves go. Not necessarily a good combination. But talk to the people that you're not walking and that you're not in their shoes with. My parents used to tell me, you can never assess somebody's life if you've never walked a mile in their shoes. Now I did something absolutely stupid. I took them literally. And I literally got into drugs and alcohol in order to get a total stranger out. Now, the thing is this. I'm not perfect, but before you start finding new ways to separate people, okay, this whole thing with one color matters more than another. Get it straight. Okay, I saw a post the other day. One supportive adult will cut the, and I'm paraphrasing. One supportive adult in a gay child's life reduces the child's likelihood of suicide by up to 40%. I'm not debating that's true, but the reality is that one supportive adult in any child's life does exactly the same thing. It's like when they came out with the Black Lives Matter. Get it through your head. All lives matter. The color of your skin doesn't matter. You're still going to die. You still can't take the material stuff with you. Okay. And you can still pray to whoever you choose. But the reality is, whoever you pray to, from what I've seen, they gave you freedom of choice. They're not coming down to clean up your mess. Okay. It's up to you to pull your head out of the sand and go, okay, I desire my world to change. Well, here's the thing. That mess over there used to be all full of paperwork. Okay. As you can see, I decided I didn't like that. I didn't wait for somebody else to come in here and sort it out. I've shredded a staggering amount of that. I was removing files from before 2000. This gives you an idea of how much of a pack rat I really had become. Okay. But you've got to start looking at what makes people the same. Take a look at the people around you. Take a look at the color of their skin. And then notice if they're happy, they're laughing. So are the white people, the Chinese, okay, the French people are laughing. If they're happy, take a look at a crowd of people. Do you stand there and look at it and go, well, that person wouldn't be laughing if they didn't have alcohol in their mouth? Quite possible. Okay, alcohol is not a solution. God knows I drank more than my fair share of it. Okay. But there are people that once you get what people don't realize with many addictions don't make the person a lesser person. It certainly makes them a complicated person. It certainly is not like I don't even let drugs in my house. Well, except for caffeine. Okay. Like nothing is lit in my house. Okay. Because that's my boundary. Now, there's no question the government came out and has done some pretty silly things. Okay, some very silly things. But there are reasons for it more often than not. But the real segregation between people has not been done by the government. The government, has made some decisions that were absolutely bizarre, and many of them I don't agree with. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, if you don't agree with the government, overthrowing a government anywhere in the world doesn't work. You want to see how that goes without a lot of bloodshed? In the book Animal Farm is a brilliant rendition of how that all translates. Okay, but we have to start realizing that segregation, that unity can only be done by people starting to look at each other and going, you're the same as I am, from the standpoint of you all live a certain amount of time. When you die, you're leaving your material stuff behind. Don't believe me? Take a look at the tombs that are 3,000 years old. Okay. And for those of you that are, like, a friend of mine was an archaeologist. And he says, Christian archaeologists are brilliant. He says, up until 2,000 years ago, they come up with the same dating. Okay, now this would be about 30 years back, so it might have changed at this point. Okay. But he says they come up with the same dates within weeks of each other. Right? But the moment it hits 2,000 years and before, Christian archaeologists at that time were going, no, it's all a farce. Okay. And yet, they will believe the Bible that was written way before 2,000 years prior. They'll believe that wholeheartedly. Now, you got to take a look at it. You're either going to believe what you're looking at, okay, or you're not. But you can't start, well, you can. It doesn't work well to be taking a look at people and going, you don't believe in exactly what I believe. Like when people come up and say, the dinosaurs are a hoax. Brilliant thought, until you realize that there's a whole pile of bones out there that's a pretty big hoax. The whole idea that the gay community is an abomination is a mistake. First of all, they say God doesn't make mistakes. Second of all, if you look at the mammalian population, all mammals, okay, approximately, from my understanding, approximately 4% of the entire mammalian race is gay. Now, with that in mind, okay, 4% of an entire population is one heck of a mistake. Okay, now we talk about black people, black people or Oriental people or everybody claiming to be a minority. Take a look at your global population. The white people are actually the minority on the planet, from my understanding. Okay, and understandably so. But, so they're a minority. Whoever you're talking to, minority, I'm a minority. Okay, I am so backwards when it comes to mechanics. Most women know more about mechanical work than I do. I'm a minority in that respect as well. But we've got to quit looking at this idea of what is making you different. Start looking at what's making you the same. Now, with that in mind, do understand, I came back to this world for one reason, one primary reason, to remind everybody that working together, we can make this a better world, okay, for virtually everybody. Now, with that in mind, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up, do subscribe to the channel, and I will see you again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.